Mike Brown won his 400th game last night as a head coach in the NBA, and the Sacramento Kings rewarded him with the Defensive Player of the Game crown, the DPOG crown, the throne. The picks are out there. The pick with the team is cold. The pick of Mike Solo is cold. And we talked about this a little bit, man. And I think you were, as I was thinking last night about yesterday's show, man, you were spot on with what you said about Mike and Kevin Herter, because we could feel however the way we want to in the moment about how Mike handled that situation with Kevin Herter and whether it was the right idea to threaten his job is a strong term, but it's what we were talking about. Like we're going to go with, Chris Duarte here and maybe go back to Kevin, but we don't know if Kevin would be playing like this if Mike hadn't done that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's a direct link. He challenged him. He pushed Kevin Herter to be better, to do more, because he believed he was capable of it. And he wasn't going to accept anything less. And Herter's responded. Responded like you would want a guy who wants to be the best, who wants to do what he can for the team to respond. And that's a direct credit to Kevin Herter, the player himself, for actually doing it. But Mike Brown for seeing that and not allowing him to accept less than what he could be. And Mike has done a fantastic job. I got to be honest with you. I've questioned Mike a couple of different times. I'll ask questions from time to time, but the questioning of Mike Brown, I want to say today on November 14th, that is over. I ain't questioning that man no more. He knows what he's doing.
He does.
He knows this team.
Yep.
And whatever he says goes. Period. That's it. I'm done. I can have questions. I will ask questions to the people and to you and to myself. I will not question that man. Not with this team.
I want to go to Gilbert on the YouTube chat or in the chatty house, because a lot of people have done stuff like this. And Gilbert says, y'all still think Duarte should start? My question is, who's y'all? Because I don't know that y'all was really out here clamoring for Chris Duarte to start.
Right.
Now, there did get to a point where there were discussions about, like, what's better for the team, what's this for that. I do not were people really saying that Chris Duarte should start over Kevin Herter?
Yeah, there were people who said that. There are people who said that, for sure.
And
people were ready to trade Kevin Herter.
Well, that's dumb.
Man, this was real discussions that we had going
on King's Twitter.
On King's Twitter, on this show, not between us, but in the chatty house. These are real things that were going on. Absolutely.
Again, if you trade Kevin Herter for someone who makes you better, it's whatever. Like, I ain't doing that. But if you're talking about trading Kevin Herter because you don't think he's good anymore, like that's wild. That's
agree.
wild. And this moment, I feel like what we saw from Kevin Herter last night, really what we've seen from Kevin Herter the last couple of games, where it's really like, oh yeah. Kayvon is back.
He's back.
He's
back.
You knew, you had to know what was going to happen. Like it happened last year. Like Kevin Herter went cold last year. You hoped going into the season that the extreme hot and colds wouldn't be there. But all this was that, an extreme hot and cold. It's exactly what we saw last year. Now that you hope that he found his groove a little bit, now that you hope De'Aaron's back, now that you hope that the offense is cooking, now that you hope that you're where you wanted to be when this whole thing started, now you can settle in.
Right.
The shots are still there for him. Everything, shots are probably in a better spot for him now that De'Aaron is back. Like, I don't know, will Z pull up the Kenny Caraway stat about wide open numbers, but it sure felt like Kevin Herter was kicking it last night.
Routinely.
I mean, was he 6 of 9? 6 of 9. How many of those 9 was he even close? Was anyone even close to him on?
Nah, man. He was getting whatever look that he wanted out there. And like I said, he's just playing hard routinely on both sides of the ball, man. And to the original point, I mean, you need somebody to push you. You
Mhm.
need somebody to say, I expect more out of you. I expect more than maybe what you even think is, you know, the most for yourself. And that's what a good coach does. That's what a good leader does. They don't allow players to rest on their laurels or, allow them not to strive to be the best that they can be. Then Mike Brown was dead serious. He's like, look, I need better, number one. I think you're capable of it.
Yeah.
And if you show me or you tell me that you're not capable of it, I'll get somebody else. So the ball's in your court. You either show me that you're capable of it or I'll move on. And once again, to Kevin's credit, he said, nope, I want to play.
Mhm.
I want to play. So whatever it is you're asking for, I'm gonna do it.
And to Mike Brown's credit, he hasn't missed when pushing a button
Mm-mm,
on this roster.
mm-mm.
Be
Well,
it
can't question that man no more. He
well,
knows everything about this team.
and that's why if you're because we talk about Kevin Herter, you talk about Keegan Murray last year. If if you're a fan of Davion Mitchell, you've got to trust what Mike's doing
Mm-hmm.
because he has shown repeatedly that, especially of players of this caliber, maybe he wasn't able to get the best out of Nehemias Queta. That's in this. I'm not trying to take a shot, but that's probably more about Nehemias Queta
Mm-hmm.
than it is about Mike Brown. Maybe he couldn't get the best out of Rashawn Holmes. Like that's okay. Rashawn was in a completely different position with Mike Brown being here because of the arrival of Domantas Sabonis. I can't fault that. You can go through Tremezi Metu. He routinely got the best out of Terrence Davis. We saw some of the things Terrence Davis did last year. I'll continue to be stunned that man isn't in the association right now. But if it was that big of a struggle to where a dude who isn't in the league a year later, you got what you got out of him at various points throughout last season, I got to credit Mike. If it's pulling him aside, talking about something on defense, if it's yanking him out 30 seconds after putting him in because he did something wrong, I'm going to credit Mike with that. If you're a Davion Mitchell fan, you got to trust what Mike's doing here and trust that Davion will respond to it the way that Keegan responded to it, the way that Kevin responded to it, the way that Terrence Davis responded to it, the way that, Rashawn, the way that all of these different guys who Mike has had to challenge before has responded to it. You got to trust that Davion will do the same.
I agree 100%, man.
Keon did it.
Yes.
Like Keon responded to the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Brown, winning his 400 game last year, he's done a phenomenal job. I talked about it a little bit earlier. He's done a phenomenal job of what's probably his last opportunity, and he knew that. His head coaching NBA career was on the line with this job, in my opinion. And he's held nothing back. He said, I'm going to do it my way.
Mhm.
I've learned a lot of things along the way, but I'm going to coach this team the way I think a team should be coached, the way that I think is best to get wins. And he's knocked it out the park. And that's what I just kind of keep. And what could have been his last opportunity, he's knocked it out the park.
Mhm.
He has been phenomenal. And another thing I was thinking about is this situation here in Sacramento, not just the organization, but in this city. Perfect for Mike Brown. We love Mike Brown here. And I don't know if he's experienced that in his coaching career. I don't know what was going on in Cleveland, if it had the same type of feel. The Lakers they're almost like the corporate champion. Like that's not somewhere where a city's going to embrace somebody like Mike Brown.
Right.
You got his time in Golden State. They really liked him. I know Warriors fans and personnel really liked Mike Brown, but he was the assistant coach. It was different. This is the spot for him. This is a perfect marriage between coach, team, and city. Because Mike Brown is just as, and not saying he's looking for this or asking for this, but he's just as much of a star and beloved figure here in Sacramento than any of those players.
Facts. Yeah.
And I'm happy for him. I'm super excited to see what else he's going to do. But make no bones about it, we love Mike Brown here in Sacramento.
We do. Mike's career started at 35, 2005, 2006 season with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. 50 wins, 50 wins, 45 wins, 66 wins, 61 wins, 41 wins in a 66 game season. Then he was fired. Well, 1 win with the, or excuse me, he was fired the next year, the 1-4 year. And then that awful decision to return to Cleveland, where he won 33 games. His first year with Sacramento, 48. So think about that for a second. His first year with LeBron James, he won 50 games. His first year with the Sacramento Kings, he won 48. He has a winning percentage of .612. He's a phenomenal head coach.
He is.
He is so underappreciated. And it's held against him that he coached LeBron James. It's held against him that he won 66 games and 61 games, but didn't win an NBA championship. It's held against him that it didn't work out with Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers. But this, again, he won 41 games in a 66 game season. Mike Brown is a incredible head coach.
Yeah.
And his record in that 400 victory last night proves it.
Hey, and look here, man. You know, I'll be the one to do it. I'll be the one to say it. You were handing L's out to yourself. Give yourself a W, because you were emphatic before he was hired, saying this is the perfect coach for this team and this franchise. And you couldn't be more right. Couldn't have been more right.
I just think part of the reason that it was perfect at the time, the reason it's perfect now is, like, this dude is a leader. This team desperately needed leadership, and people kept calling him, the safe hire, especially when it came down to, Mark Jackson, and was it Steve Clifford was the other one in the conversation, which I don't know. I just hated that idea. I hated the idea of Steve Clifford. I didn't think that would work at all. The Mark Jackson thing was interesting. I know there was a contingent of fans that were really disappointed when, like, the Will Hardys and some of those guys were kind of removed from consideration. But from jump, it felt like Mike was the perfect guy to coach this team. He was experienced. He was a leader. And it doesn't matter who was right or wrong at this point, whether you were right or wrong about Mike Brown, whether you were right or wrong about Keegan Murray. Fact is, this team is good. And one of the main reasons they're good is Mike Brown. Another main reason that they're good is Keegan Murray. So the great stuff about all of that, about what we do, is we can debate it. We could talk about it in the moment. But all that matters is when we look back on it. We always joke about clearing max slots for De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley. There's a lot of L we handed there. There's a lot of L's to be handed out in that conversation.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, all that matters is that you can look back and say, this team is successful. And the reason they are successful is because of this draft pick that we debated, this superstar we debated, this trade that everybody told us was trash and everybody told us was going to haunt this franchise forever, and this coaching hire, which a lot of people were critical of.